I'm really excited about this episode of Persons of Interest because, of course, I like to talk sports a lot, and this gentleman has a career in sports working with the St. Louis Blues. So, of course, we're probably going to get into what things were like for him this time last year. But Matt Gardner is the Vice President of Digital Media and Emerging Technology for the St. Louis Blues. Matt, that title is probably taking on a bunch of different meanings over the years you've been with the Blues, and also since you've been working in sports, because your background obviously goes back to some time in the NBA as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly evolved over the years, and I guess that's kind of the great things of being in digital and tech is having the opportunity to kind of change as the industry changes and as technology changes, just kind of go with the flow, and it makes things interesting.
Nice. So I guess to start out, I mentioned you with the Blues, but I want to go back to how you got working in sports in general, because I think a lot of people, when they see hear or think about the opportunity of working in sports at any position, not just digital media, but in marketing or in business side of it. They look at it, with a huge opportunity, because especially, there's folks that love sports, and it's like, how can you make a career of something that, doesn't feel like a job? For you, how did you sort of find your opportunity, and what led you there? Because I know you've got a background from University of Kansas in sports management, correct?
Yeah, I actually got started when I was 16. And my sophomore year in high school, I had a teacher tell me that she thought I was a pretty talented writer. And being somebody who was very heavily interested in sports on a personal level, I thought, you know what, sports writing might be a great path for me. So for my junior year, I enrolled in Intro to Journalism as one of my classes. The funny thing about that, before I even got to class that summer, there was an ad in my local paper, the Emporia Gazette, looking for a part-time sports writer. And, big-headed, naive 16-year-old like I was, I thought, yeah, you know what, I can do that. So I applied for the job. I went in, I did writing samples and everything. And I was one that I was always reading the newspaper every day. I was reading the local Gazette. If I could get my hands on the Kansas City Star or Topeka or Wichita papers, I was reading those. And I ended up getting the job. Little did I know when I got the job, being 16 years old, that the guys that I was competing for the job were either juniors and seniors in college or recent college graduates. And I ended up beating all of those guys out for this role. And so that was kind of what kickstarted things. And I graduated from high school, went to University of Kansas, was still doing a lot of writing. I was writing for the local Lawrence paper, the Lawrence Journal World. I was writing for the school newspaper, doing a lot, 3 to 4 to 5 days a week. I was writing in some capacity for one paper or another for my first couple of years. When I got really near the end of my junior year, I saw a lot of talented writers that were graduating with degrees, and you're thinking, boy, these people are going to go off and do great things. And sports is a slow path as a sports writer. You really have to work your way up. And I saw people graduating and going and covering high school preps in Idaho, or this really small town someplace. And I just thought to myself, boy, do I really want to do that? Thinking I wanted a path to, being able to work in professional sports.
Right.
So I changed my focus a little bit. I started to shift more on the sports management side of things. And I was going to do an internship with the KU athletic department. Great segue, and a way that a lot of people end up in the sports industry is working in the athletic department. But fortunately, the same day that I was talking to some of the SIDs that were at the school, I was told that the Kansas City Chiefs were looking for part-time help. So I went and worked for the Chiefs. I think this was like the 99 NFL season. And, it was more a part-time game day assistant type help. Really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and kind of used that as my real transition into sports. I did an internship with the ATP Tour, men's professional tennis, between my junior and senior year in college. Went back, finished things up. And shortly after I graduated, I took a full-time job with the ATP. And that's really where things kind of how things got started.
So do you obviously took advantage of a lot of different opportunities there to find a footing and get experience. Do you find that the experience was valuable in terms of helping land that first job, maybe even more so than the degree? Because I feel like I hear people talking about put yourself out there, be a volunteer, be an intern, do what you have to do to get experience to know a if this is indeed what you want to do, so you can know about it, and then b have the experience.
Yeah, I think everyone's college career it tends to be a little bit different, and some it's based on the merit of the work you do in school, and others
Sure.
it's based on the experience you get along the way. Mine was definitely the latter, and the fact that I had an opportunity to be exposed a lot in the sports writing circle and covering KU athletics. Before I worked for the Chiefs, I was actually covering some Chiefs games for the Lawrence Journal World, and so there was a lot of opportunities that I just happened to be fortunate to land along the way. And it definitely led me to the right path as I kind of figured out my way through how do I get into sports. The flexibility of things and really how things transition for me on the digital side of what I do. A couple of months after I started with the ATP, and I got hired more for writing editorial type standpoint. They were still doing publications and everything, and web was sort of this subset. They were actually at the time, this is incredible. This was 2002, and if you think back to that period and where we are now 18 years later, they were updating their website one time per week. Wow. They were using a company based out of Germany. And on Sundays, when they would run the updated rankings after all of the tennis tournaments were completed, they would send basically packets of data over to this company in Germany, and this company would update their website. And so fast forward, I was with the ATP for 3.5 years. We went from the website being updated one time per week to doing real-time scoring that was coming from a handheld in the chair umpire's hand.
Yeah.
Just incredible advancements in such a very short period of time. But I was fortunate enough. I kind of had two paths where I could stay on the editorial PR type role, or I could have this opportunity to kind of jump into digital. I was fascinated with, a website and internet and everything else that was happening and really emerging in the early 2000s. And so it was almost a no-brainer for me to take that other path. The PR piece I thought would be the safe route to go for sure. But very fortunate that at that time I had that opportunity and was able to jump in.
So I knew from your background in the NBA, you've sort of jumped in on like the live streaming part of it, because I think you've told me that when you're with the Orlando Magic, you guys did a draft day camera in the front office as they were, talking about picks and things like that. That's stuff that at the time was not done often. Now you get media day live streaming and all this stuff, and there's so much content out there. Thinking about that, being on the ground floor of getting that done for tennis, that's pretty remarkable. So you've sort of been, involved in some pretty unique things along the way. So I guess that lens of how do you sort of keep up with the technology and being on the ground floor of technology, making all this happen?
I think it's, I've been very fortunate to work with people that have been open-minded and willing to take chances and try things out that are new. Beyond really trying to transition tennis into the digital era in the 3 years that I was there. When I arrived at the Orlando Magic in 2005, they had just started, at the time was called their interactive marketing department. And really their first subset of having a digital team and database marketing focusing on the email side. And so, we realized there were some opportunities that were out there. Being able to just put a camera in our draft room and convince our general manager, Otis Smith, at the time, like, hey, we're not picking up audio. We're just going to have a stream out there, which he thought was ridiculous. Like, who's going to sit there and watch, a bunch of guys in a room? You can't hear anything. You can't see anything, can't see the boards. And to be able to show him the numbers after the draft, it's just like, that was incredible. And then being able to pivot that at the time, the Magic were hosting a smaller subset of a summer league. There were six or seven teams that would come to Orlando. They would play in the practice facility. This was before the Vegas thing got really big. You had Utah had their own summer league. Orlando had a summer league. There were just these little pockets that were happening. And so we had, there was kind of a platform above the court that our basketball operations team was recording thing anyway. I mean, they wanted the right. tape of, what was going on. And so we talked to our broadcast team, like, why don't we just take that feed and just live stream it? No commentary, no nothing. Like, let's pick up the sound of the ball bouncing, the sneakers on the court, and just put it out there. So we did day one, and watching mainly at the time, it was different message boards that would comment on what's going on. There's all this chatter everywhere. So we evolved that from day one to the second day. We put one of our broadcasters and one of our PR people in there just to be able to provide a little bit more context, because it was difficult to see who was on the court at times. You're playing with a lot of guys maybe you're not so aware of that are playing on a summer league team. And so they did very lighthearted commentary. I mean, it was pretty comical. It was a little bit of a comedy routine to some degree, because it's really hard to get technical when you're covering summer league basketball.
Right.
And it took off. It really took off. And the two guys, Dante Marcatelli and George Galante, are still doing. They're both still with the team. They do different things. They have a video series they do on the website and stuff. But that all launched at Summer League and broadcasting those games, live streaming. I think we were the very first to do that. And it was fun. And again, it took a lot of really open-minded people with the Magic. My boss at the time, Michelle Andres, who's now with the Baltimore Ravens, was really incredible in supporting a lot of the efforts that we were rolling out there, and all of leadership and basketball ops kind of giving us the okay. They would sometimes, tell us, hey, let's not do this, let's not do that. Yeah. But it takes those types of people to really help you evolve your brand and continue to move you in the right direction. And even now with my time with the St. Louis Blues, I've been very fortunate to be able to work with people that embrace that that trend.
How many ideas you think you've had at all these different places you worked at that some were, yeah, we'll see if that we'll give it a shot, and some you're like, nah, that's not worth giving a try. Like, I imagine you've had to have so many of those where you're like, let's see what happens. Let's throw it out. I mean, because that's what technology, especially these days, what it is, because we get so much thrown at us of here's a new feature, try it out. I'm sure since 2005, when before Twitter even came along, you've probably had so many ideas of things that you'd like to do and may not have the opportunity to do.
I think over time you learn you got to pick your battles, and you throw too many ideas out there, they start to think maybe you're a little crazy. But and I think over time as I've grown as a professional, and more years have come, and to where I've been able to understand the business, you start to focus a lot more on those core objectives. I mean, fan engagement in most things that we're doing is always top of mind, but now as platforms and channels and everything have evolved over the years, you're focusing on more revenue generation. How can you bring in corporate partners with things that you're doing? How do you tie in data acquisition to make sure that you're learning as much as you can about your fans, so that you can, deliver the type of content that they're really wanting to see. But the saying that there's no such thing as a bad idea. Sometimes you got to be careful, but more often than not, it's better to bring more things to the table, and then collectively as a group come up and figure out which ones are going to have the biggest impact.
So with the Blues, you guys actually now I'm sure over time you can speak to this, that from what it is now, going back to when you first got with the team, that the technology has driven a lot of what is expected, what is needed, what you want to accomplish. It's not just one guy who's a writer who's also tweeting and might snap two pictures or get a picture and throw it up on the website. Now you've got someone who's dedicated to doing social media. You've got someone that or a team of people that might do video. You may get assistance from photographers and videographers, and in-house. It's now more of it's almost a collective effort, and not just for the Blues, but for several teams, for several colleges. That's just the way digital media has become. From your perspective there, what's been the evolution of the Blues approach to doing those things over time?
Yeah, I think as an organization, we've come a long way in really a short amount of time, and embrace this philosophy of working together. Because you're right, digital goes across every asset that we have in the company. If we're trying to sell tickets, it's through our digital properties. If we're presenting our sponsors, there tends to always be digital assets. We have retail and other things that we need to focus on. So everyone really embracing that and coming together and understanding, and it has taken quite a few years for all of us to really get there across the industry, to adapt and adjust as technology has changed the way that we do things and the way that fans engage with us. But I'm very pleased that we've had strong leadership that has assisted us in getting in a great place. It's something that continues to change and continues to find new opportunities for us to deliver our product in a whole new level that maybe we hadn't thought of 3 or 4 years ago. So those opportunities are great to have, and it's great that everybody's been really open-minded. And over the last couple of years, the emerging technology part of my role has really come around to be more forward-thinking of looking at not only just how we're doing things now, and even in those areas that might be working, but what's next? What's to come for, the technology we may need in our venue, the experience that fans are expecting, whether they're in our building, whether they're watching at home or somewhere else. All of these worlds tend to merge together now with technology. And I think we've been in a pretty strong place the last few seasons to have a good hold on what we need to do and how we need to approach ourselves. And we're definitely not perfect. There's always ways that you can continue to grow and learn. But I think we take steps in the right direction every year, which is really great to see.
What's a regular game day like for you?
That's funny because it's stayed the same, but it's also changed a lot over the years. We've grown as a staff between people that are on our digital team and our creative team and our video team. When I started, it was myself and one other individual made up digital, and we had 2 designers and we had like 2 video people, and now combined we have much larger numbers, and so. It's taken off a little bit more of the day-to-day workload, where now for me, I'm more assessing what do we need to do to kind of continue to shift things. I'm looking at analytics and numbers and seeing what's performing well. And because, there's value that we have to deliver to, parties, and whether it's at times where we've needed to push more tickets on a game day, or it's making sure that we're working on our messaging with our corporate partners the right way, and not just using those assets for advertising purposes, but really being able to bring that partner into our branding and our content and delivering something that has value versus just product placement. And the last couple of years, it's been a lot with venue technology. As we've shifted to mobile tickets in our building, we've gone to more digital signage, other elements like that. As we come out of this pandemic, what is that experience going to look like for fans when they come back to our building? My role has kind of evolved as technology has kind of taken us in different places, but it's fun to kind of see things go, and our team coming together from a content standpoint, really from 7:30, 8 a.m. when we're putting our first post out on a game until 9:45, 10:30 when we're wrapping up for the day. So it's a great journey.
I'll be honest, I was mostly just curious if you ever still get the opportunity to hop on Twitter and send out a few game day tweets or live action tweets yourself. That's all I was really curious about.
I don't much anymore. Fortunately we have people that can focus a lot more on that, which is really helpful. I mean, it's always challenging. And the fun thing about social is, every year the environment is changing.
Absolutely.
And you're not putting out content the same way as before, or Instagram or Facebook or somebody will introduce something new, and then all of a sudden you're working in, okay, what is our Instagram stories strategy going to be? We've gone and had a strategy on Snapchat, and then realize maybe so much content in Snapchat is not necessarily what we need, but more to provide our fans the tools for them to engage with us as they see fit. So there's always those things every year that are changing, that it's fun, but a little daunting year after year to kind of keep up with these things and making sure you're delivering things to people, platforms that they want to use, versus trying to force them into a certain platform that you're most comfortable with.
Oh, you said you took the words right out of my head as I'm thinking, because I remember when I was at the Valley, that was always the thing that I don't want to say I struggled with, but it was more along the lines of telling people I didn't want to just be on a platform just for the sake of being on the platform. That's not what it's about. Like, if you can't strategically, which it sounds like that's what your role is now, you're more of a strategy guy and looking not just on the surface, but diving deep of what your purpose is on the platform, and making sure you're doing it with the right reasons. So I'm curious, last season had to be quite the adventure, because the Blues start out and their things aren't going as well. And when you're in sports and you're doing digital content, I think people don't realize that you're not always going to be working for a winning team, and you've got to figure out how to creatively tell the story of the team, which is that's the role there, especially when it comes to social media and things like that. But still engage with fans. Now, the Blues definitely have diehard fans that will live and die with them no matter what. And that's definitely something I'm sure every hockey team has, every sports team in general has. So let's start there. The challenges of telling a team story in the digital landscape when the success on the ice or on the field, on the court, isn't always there. How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been fortunate now, I guess 12 seasons I've spent between the Magic and the Blues. And every year that I've worked, the team has had at least been in the playoff chase. I was, my first year in Orlando, the team narrowly missed out on the playoffs, missed out on the 8th seed by a game or two. Was in the playoffs my last two. And then with the Blues, even down to the 2017-18 season, where it was down to the very last game of the season, we missed out on the playoff spot. The funny thing about last season was the team started off so poorly, underperforming where everybody thought they were with the free agents that we brought in. And it was challenging in December, especially. I remember sitting in the press box, during a game where we're getting annihilated at home and you're not expecting it, and thinking, wow, this team has no shot at making the playoffs. And the first time in my career, really, I was in this spot where, okay, when am I going to the second half of the season and be thinking about lottery picks than, actually playing for something at the end of the year. And, it was definitely a little more challenging, because you're having to kind of think about how you cover things and realizing that the comments and everything you get back on anything you post are going to come back negative, because, fans get frustrated, and,
Right.
Clearly understand that the environment of social media is very similar to, like, being with a buddy in a bar watching a game and expressing your frustration. You're just doing it in an online forum. And so, we had to kind of change our tactics a little bit and think about how do we bring some more positives out of this piece that's maybe not performing very well. Fortunately, we got to the start of 2019 and things quickly turned around for us. So, it was one of those that the period wasn't too bad, because you got to October and November and people kind of thought, all right, they're taking some time to gel. They're going to come together.
Right.
December was a little rough because people really started to think more on the negative side of things. And then, the big turnaround January moving forward into, what was a season that none of us could have ever expected.
So the other side of the pillow is much cooler, and things just shoot off like a rocket, and they set a record for consecutive wins, and they just go on this run. Had you in your professional career been involved in such a drastic turnaround that finished on the absolute highest possible of notes? No pun intended there.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not by far. I mean, last season was something like I don't think any of us have
Yeah,
ever experienced. To be in last place on January 3rd, dead last in the entire league, to not only the last day of the regular season where we playoff bound, but we had a shot at winning the division. That's how quickly, with a franchise record winning streak in February and just really dominant play and everybody coming together, how great we turned it around, and the resilience that they demonstrated to kind of get back into it made them very battle tested when it came to the playoffs. And you could just see that in the way that we played and the way that we recovered. And it just seemed like every loss, the very next game, we were back together. We had forgotten about it, and we were moving in the right direction. So, and then the story from there speaks for itself. It just was an incredible thing to be a part of, where you were regularly pinching yourself thinking, is this really happening? But such a wonderful, fantastic story for the franchise, but more importantly, just for St. Louis in general.
Absolutely. So, for comparison's sake, I recently did an episode where I talked to some guys from Loyola University Chicago, and we sort of recapped the Final Four run that they had. It was the first time since years that the team had made a NCAA tournament, let alone Final Four. And we talked about briefly the success they had with some of the pieces of content. And the fans just loved the video content that they were putting out, because for those that weren't on the trip, or even those that were, you didn't always get to see the behind the scenes stuff. And they really excelled at showing that locker room footage, that practice footage, the coach talking to the players. That stuff shined for them. What stood out for the Blues in terms of digital content that was, you got to make sure this is captured? Because when you're on that run and you never know when it's going to happen again, you want to capture everything. But when you post it, you obviously see what's performing better than others. Anything that you remember that stood out more than others that was memorable?
The biggest thing during the playoff run last year that we were able to do is we followed the guys into the locker room immediately after a win. And, the big overwhelming story that came out of last season was the guys listening to Gloria in the locker room after every game, after every win. So you had Gloria playing, you had the guys come in, they were pumped up. The funny thing about that period is that every time we recorded one of these videos, and we did it almost after every win in the playoffs, not everyone, but almost. There would be some F-bombs in there that we would have to edit out. And the funny thing about it is we'd record these. Somebody on our team would be there. They'd shoot the video. They'd do a quick edit, trying to get it out there as quickly as possible so it's on our platform. We would be on a group chat, 4 or 5 different people, all of us separately in different locations, listening to hear if we heard any more expletive that we needed to beep out. So it was really funny when you're on this text, sort of like, did I hear something at 31 seconds? And so we're trying to do these quick edits and get it out there. But, and fans were asking, give us the unedited version, give us the whole thing. And, trying to stay family friendly on our platforms. We did edit, but it was great content. It was people as you're coming off the high of a playoff win, and then all of a sudden you see that video and you see how excited and pumped up the guys are to be one step closer to a Stanley Cup. We got to a point where we couldn't wait to see the video. When the editor sent it to us, we're just waiting for this great video to come in, hearing Gloria playing on the background. It was always really exciting, and we knew instantly, as soon as we posted that, we were going to get a really great response online, and that tended to happen game after game. So it was pretty cool.
How awesome or difficult, or I don't even know what the question is, but I'm just mostly curious about how it was documenting the travels of the Stanley Cup between all the different people associated with the franchise. I mean, obviously, you can't send a staffer to follow the Cup across the world. I mean, as people are going back to their homes with their day with the Cup, but you guys did a great job of somehow getting pieces of content when someone took the Cup overseas, up north, across the United States. You all like had a majority of it. How did you pull that off?
Those were some really difficult decisions, because you're right. We wanted to cover everything. This is the very first time we won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
We want to document every single thing we can, so that 50 years from now, we look back on this, we have all this amazing, rich video that we can share everywhere. And so we came through and we kind of made lists, and it was based on where the Cup was going to be, what the travel was going to look like. If were we able to get staff from one place to another to accommodate, because the Cup was going to be day after day after day, just kind of continued over a 2-month period. I can't remember the total number of places that we picked, but we were aggressive trying to cover a lot of the guys. I would say we probably had somebody there for 12 to 13, maybe even more events. And what was funny about it, and our content team, the likes of Chris Binkert and Trevor Nickerson and some of our other video editors, Elise Butler on the social media side, we've developed such great relationships with our players that even for some of the guys that we didn't end up sending film crews, they were disappointed that we weren't going to be there. And because they're seeing all this other content that's coming from Colton Pareko's day and Alex Petrangelo's day. And so, it was fun, and we tried to do as much as possible. And, we told all these guys, even if we weren't going to be there, hey, put us in touch with somebody who might be there that's shooting or getting photos or something, and we will share that content, because we want to celebrate your day just as much as any of those others that were out there. And the overseas one, I think we had 5 or 6 players between Sweden and Russia. It was going to be a bit costly, and especially to get to Vladimir Tarasenko's place, which was very isolated from everyone else. Logistically, it was going to be difficult. So we did hire freelancers for those to be able to shoot and provide us with some content, so we could, capture great moments there as well.
Awesome. My last question, you just talked about it with each player getting their time with the Cup. How important is the relationship with the players when you're trying to do so much for the team? And I mean, let's face it, in sports, that's what it's about. You're telling their story. They're the ones that they're the performers. And to know that they trust you, you trust them, and might have a camera in their face, you're following them around. There has to be some sort of give and take where they know, oh yeah, they're with the team, but at the same time, giving them the privacy, or capturing the moments appropriately. How does that work into it when you're doing so much, especially behind the scenes?
I give a lot of credit to our PR staff and some of our content team that I just mentioned in developing relationships. These guys are around them daily from the time they get into town for training camp until the season wraps up. And so those relationships get formed, and it's almost like those members of our staff are part of the hockey operations family, whereas there's that circle of trust. They understand what is appropriate to share and put out on our channels and what is not. And so it's great that those relationships have been formed. We have guys all the time that are reaching out to us with their own content ideas. And
awesome.
We go to them with ideas all the time, and sometimes they think it's great. Other times they think we're crazy. But they come to us as well. And to see guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Jordan Bennington and some others, even during this pause, have come to us with, hey, I'd like to do this, or hey, I have this idea. That's all happening because of the relationship that we've established with those guys. And so when they see us around, when they're celebrating a win in the locker room, and they see a camera in there and they recognize who it is, they feel like they can act like themselves, and they don't have to be different because it feels like a more of a media personality in there versus somebody that, hey, this person's with the team, they're
Yeah.
going to represent the right way. They're not going to post something that they shouldn't, that's going to reflect poorly on me or anyone else. And so there's this level of comfort and trust that's been built out that has really given us a lot of great opportunities to collect some pretty outstanding content.
I bet you guys have a ton of stuff that none of us have probably ever seen that's on the archives that you probably saving for a rainy day that, maybe hit the cutting room floor, but didn't get thrown away, but it's locked away in a vault, I imagine.
Yeah, when we went into this pause in March, Trevor Nickerson and I had been talking because we had all this behind the scenes footage.
Yeah.
From the first 24 hours after the Cup to the parade, the celebrations, and everything else. And that's when we put out the limited time YouTube series, 4 episodes that turned into half-hour episodes that were also on KSDK locally a few weeks after they aired. So we got 2 hours of additional content that we really hadn't used anywhere else. And we still have plenty more. So it's going to be great. Now we get to, live in this glory of a championship for years to come, and, can still put out little unique snippets from time to time, and just will continue to capture what was a pretty amazing moment in the history of the city.
I've seen the picture that you even got the chance to hoist the cup in Boston. Your lasting memory of the Blues winning Stanley is fill in the blank.
Oh, it's remarkable because Game 6, we had the opportunity to win the cup at home, and I was a nervous wreck that entire day.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't sleep the night before, didn't feel like eating, and you felt this nervous energy all over the office. I mean, it being a really long day in the office waiting for puck drop. And, then Boston comes in and destroys us that game, Game 7 at Boston. But that day, I woke up feeling very different. I slept the night before. I felt this level of confidence, we're going to do this. I didn't feel like I was traveling up to Boston that day to watch us lose the Stanley Cup. To be there to see it play out. We're sitting in the press box. The area that they had in the press box for the scratch players, Black Aces, was very, very small. So those guys over the course of the series stood behind our area in the press box. So, we had guys like Chris Thorburn and Chris Butler and Robbie Fabry and others that were either sitting next to us or standing around us, and listening to them talk during Game 7 almost gave you a relaxing feeling because, they're trying to be respectful in the press box, but they're, kind of cheering on the guys. Right. And, talking about what's going down and what's doing well, and, great job, Benner, really doing that. And it gave you this level of just confidence that we're going to do it. And then we score the first goal. And then, later on we get the second goal and third. And it was just such a remarkable feeling. And to be able to go down the ice and, one of those things where you just happen to be in the right place at the right time to be handed the cup and, to hoist it on the ice after Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final is, one of the probably the most remarkable thing I've had the opportunity to do in my career. So it was a really great feeling.
Well, I know as a lifelong St. Louis, and it was something different about when the Blues won. As I tell people all the time, I've seen the Cardinals win, and we saw the Rams do what they did, but it was just something totally different when a franchise gets that cup, gets that championship done in that fashion after years of waiting. And this is me talking, someone that barely knows anything about hockey. So I can imagine the lifelong St. Louisans that are diehard hockey fans and how they felt. And it's still pretty awesome. I've got newspaper covers from the Post and things like that. I'm like, I got to hang on to this. This is awesome. And it's I've been to probably 6 hockey games in my life. I can name them, countless Cardinal games, and it's just something different. It's just something different about knowing the Blues got it done. So just awesome.
I moved to St. Louis 2 months after the Cardinals won the 2011 World Series. And I remember just how absolutely crazy St. Louis was when I moved here. It was incredible to see all the support and see everybody wearing their 2011 World Series champions hat and all of this. And I thought, man, I want that. I want that feeling. And, I had to wait 8 years, but gosh, it's been worth every minute. So it's been fantastic.
The way I sum it up, championship parades are awesome, but what the Blues had was just remarkable. Like I still can go on Google and find pictures of the Arch grounds and just the sea of people that came out for that parade and then migrated to the Arch grounds, or people that couldn't because they were already down there. That was just amazing. Something this city has not seen, and we hope that we can see it again soon when the Blues win another one. So
Absolutely.
so awesome, man. This is awesome, man. I appreciate you taking time to chat with me and talk a little digital media and relive a little bit of the Blues. Is awesome. I know you're not a huge tweeter, so I'll just be sure to promote the Blues social media. If folks aren't following them already, they should. They do a fantastic job. I actually follow Elise and keep up with her. You guys just are rock stars on there, and keep up doing the great work there, and do what you do, and hopefully we get sports back soon, including hockey, and things get back. Yeah, what's the plan there? I try not to touch on the pandemic, but what's the outlook for you guys and for the NHL getting things going here and resuming, I guess?
Yeah, so training camp will start back up on July 10th. They're going to give each kind of team in their local markets a couple weeks to get the guys back in shape. Guys are skating on their own right now. Our training facility is open for guys to use. Some guys are using it. Some are still skating groups at different rinks. So they'll be back in town all on July 10th, and camp will start from there. Roughly around 2-3 weeks after that, the teams hopefully will be making it to one of two hub cities. And, around usually right around, I guess, the 1st of August, we hope that the season will resume. There will be, we will be playing round robin against the other 3 top teams in the West to determine what the seeding is going to be for the top 4 teams. The bottom 8 teams will be playing for the final 4 in kind of a qualifying round for the final 4 positions in the playoffs. And then from there, you'll have 8 teams in the East, 8 teams in the West, playing, 4 rounds like typically happens for the Stanley Cup.
Awesome. And then does this mean a following season after that would resume on time? Because typically, obviously, hockey, you guys have a training camp, September going into October, things like that. Would that still be in the plans, or does this now shift all the plans for the following season after that?
It's a very good question. A lot to still get ironed out.
Okay.
It depends on when exactly the return to play does happen. When do we start? How long does that process take to basically award the Stanley Cup? And then from there, whenever that happens, you're going to have probably a very shorter period to go through your typical off-season motions of the draft and free agency and releasing a schedule and prepping. And so, the expectation right now is that the 2021 season will be starting a bit later at the end of the year. And then from there, we just have to see what happens. A lot of different scenarios and things in play, but we're very hopeful that we see hockey back on the ice soon. We'll be playing a little bit of summertime hockey this year, and hope to get back and have an opportunity to defend the cup.
Let's do it. I'm all about it, because I'm realizing how much not having sports has affected me. I'm anxious for anything now, especially the home team. So thanks again, Matt. This has been awesome. I appreciate you taking time to chat with me, and best of luck going forward. And just like I said, keep up the great work. You guys do great things representing the Blues online.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.